All right, it's pretty sad when government government legislation intended to help people turns into a verb, because that usually is indicative that it's not good, and the people who put it into place. I mean, it's been in existence for a while as far as the Baker Act in Florida. But we've seen an escalation in how it's been misused, and I think that that's what we're seeing now. And I really see that it's escalated in its misuse in Florida since Parkland. And just like with anything in society, you go after what you fear and you go after what you don't know. And because government failed miserably, and I'm talking about the SRO and the police, the school system itself, the everybody along the chain, that and all the safety nets that were there, that could have prevented Parkland, that should have prevented Parkland from ever occurring, they all failed. But government doesn't like to look at itself, and it doesn't like to scrutinize its actions. As you can see, I don't know how much you guys have looked into this, but the school system has fought successfully, mind you, to this point, vigorously to prevent the full release and scrutiny of Nicholas Cruz's education record. And I've been following that one rather closely because of how much it intersects with some of my cases. Not school shooting, anything like that. I'm just saying, mental health components, IEP, behavior plans, the right kind of therapy, the absolute abuse and misuse of alternative placement programs. Those kind of things do impact my clients, and that's the cycle, the washing cycle that Nicholas Cruz was caught in, leading up to, his actions, which are inexcusable. At the same time, that doesn't mean that the safety nets weren't there. So the Baker Act is one of those things that could have been utilized. And of course, in retrospect, everybody's like, well, why wasn't this kid, Baker Acted? Well, so of course, what ends up happening in situations like this, like I said, hate isn't the problem. Fear of what you don't know is what feeds hate, okay? And it's always been like that through human history, okay? Everybody likes to go after isms and phobias and all of those other things, but the root cause of all of this stuff is really fear. And fear is also rooted in ignorance, or it's a deflection of your own problems. And so with government, absolute deflection. So let's just go ahead and blame, or have people place blame on what we don't know and understand, and especially kids with IEPs, kids with behavioral issues, kids with mental health issues, as though that's going to be a solution. So being Baker Acted is involuntary commitment, and just like mandatory reporting for CPS, DHR, Children Protective Services, whatever it's called in your state, schools have figured out how to weaponize this stuff. Police have weaponized these things in a reaction to deal with what they don't know and what they fear, and so of course, where there might be one or two legitimate cases, there'll be three that aren't. And I'm one of these people, as a civil libertarian, as a libertarian in general, in my beliefs. I think that it's really, really dangerous. And the reason our criminal justice system and our probate court system, the reason it's set up as imperfect as it is it really does err on the side of the accused, okay? Or it did. And I don't think it's doing that much anymore because of, these ideas. Well, I don't want to get into that because I don't want some of you burning me in effigy for, this is scrutinizing political correctness. And I think it's, gone haywire to the point where I really do believe that the accused should have the benefit of the doubt in everything that government does. Okay? If they're guilty, they're guilty. But make the government prove it and make the government reach that standard of proof. With things like mandatory reporting, yes, the intent's there to protect. Things like Baker Act, yes, it's there to protect. But the mechanisms are broken with regards to how they're used to where it's really susceptible to abuse by people that want to hurt others, and for people who want to misuse power, people who want to exercise revenge, and if these systems are set up to where that's what ends up happening, then I don't want them. I don't want them. I don't want to see one innocent person suffer at the hands of government or at the hands of a mob in order to and there's a lot of you out there that believe the opposite, that it's okay to misuse groups or have government because we're being safe, we're keeping people safe, and that you'll never keep people safe. I don't know where that's ever been written. That is just not the human experience. It's never been since the dawn of humanity. That has never been the case for humanity. And we live in the safest time period the world has ever seen. Ever. You don't have to sit there and wonder if you're going to be clubbed over the head and taken away and sold or just murdered because for whatever reason. For as imperfect as we are, we have it pretty stinking good. And I think maybe that's why we're shocked when these events of violence happen, because they're not that common, and they're not as common as they used to be. So when they do happen, we all freak out and we go, "Oh my gosh, we got to do something to make it not happen." And we've never been successful. Never been successful in making things not happen. Because there will always be broken humans. There will always be evil humans. And most of the time you have no idea what they're up to, and you have no idea what they're going to do. But that doesn't mean that you sit there and you curtail all the freedoms and the liberties that everybody enjoys because you have the reality of broken humans out there. I just don't understand what goes on in people's thought processes. So what can you do in your situation? It's happened to you twice. And the school hasn't done a safety plan, and they haven't exhausted with regards to the behavior plan. And in your situation, a due process complaint is exactly where I would go in order to protect your child. You've got to hold the school accountable that way. And I'm quite sure that if I were to dig into the fine rules of Florida's Baker Act, I'm quite sure it's set up just like mandatory reporting, to where, the people that mandatory or the people that Baker Act kids are held with no consequence, no liability. And that needs to stop. That needs to end. Like I said, you for the ones that we know that are doing it because they're doing it for gain, for malicious reasons, they knowingly are incorrect, or they're hypocritical in their application. I can't tell you, there's some teachers out there that I've known that have mandatory reported, but you go over to their house and it's a freaking nightmare, and their kids hate them, and they're horrible parents, but yet, you know, here they are mandatory reporting on families for, you know, the smallest infraction. And, you know, that busybody attitude. There's some legitimate things out there, guys. I'm not saying that there's not. All right. It's just that we've got to find a balance, and it's not in sync. We are so far apart to where what was initially put into place with regards to good intent has now shifted to where you have this weaponizing of what was good intent as a method and a means of control over people that can't fight for themselves. Not going to happen to me. You know, it's not going to happen to a lot of parents, you know, depending on who they are, where they live. But that's wrong. We shouldn't be having that attitude that it's okay that it doesn't happen to me. As you know, no. We're all in this together. Wrong. Due process. But, you know, send me a private message. Because I'd be interested where you are in Florida and see if I know somebody there that could potentially help you. Okay? Sorry, this is going on.